This is wider. Hello, hello, hello. All right. Hi, I'm Ruby, and this is my husband, Carter, and he's going to be joining us today. I'm so excited. We're going to have a conversation on his journey to fatherhood. First, I'm Ruby, and welcome to the Ruby Room, where I help women navigate the complexities of motherhood, growth, and also relationships. And so, I'm excited today to have a man on board to kind of share the male perspective regarding parenting and just the journey to it and stuff like that. So, I think there's so much that we could all learn, even though he's my husband and I live with him, and I think I've gone through this process with him. But I think there's some things that I could learn as well just from the questions. Thanks to those who submitted questions, and I also got some other questions too that I think may be able to help others. It could help other men who are in this journey as well, and also maybe other women how they can navigate it with their partners, their husbands, and just the journey to parenting. Just quick announcements. The ways that you can support this channel is by you can like this video, make sure you subscribe to my channel, the Ruby Room, and also you can bless us with a super sticker, super thanks, and super chats during this. I have several questions that I'll be going through, but if you have any questions, feel free to type in your questions in the comments section, and then I'll also be on the lookout for that, and we'll respond to your questions on those, the questions that you're going to send in. And also be kind and respectful in the comments section as we're having these conversations. And if you can hear me well, give me a thumbs up, please. I'm not sure what the sound sounds like right now, but just definitely give a thumbs up. And we're going to have the questions broken down in 4 different categories, which is going to be trying to conceive, pregnancy, labor and delivery, and then finally would be postpartum/reflections that I'll ask him as well. So anything you want to share, honey, about yourself?
Yeah, I'm excited to do this. I love listening to podcasts, and I'm a huge fan of sports talk radio. So this is fun for me to do. I'm excited for this. Um, my goal or my hope is that this actually helps men out there who are currently supporting and loving their wife before they give birth, in the midst of it, whatever it may be. I'm a big believer that if I have any little bit amount of time more than someone else, I have something to offer that person. So I have only been a parent for 9 months. But I'm going to enjoy and try my best to share my perspective, some helpful things, just my experience. A couple things about me. I'm a pastor. I love to fish. I love to go camping. But honestly, and I genuinely mean this, I love hanging out with my wife and son more than anything. I've always wanted to be a husband and a father, and those things have come true. And I genuinely protect that time with them because it fills me up. Outside of my relationship with Jesus, it fills me up more than anything else. I love my family, and I'm excited to do this with you. I get to watch your videos and support you, and now I'm in one with you.
So. Yay! Thank you. You're my first guest.
Awesome.
Awesome. Okay, so the first set of questions that I have are going to be on trying to conceive, TTC. So the first one would be, what advice would you give a man who wants to be a dad but is not sure when's the right time or age to start trying? How do you know you're ready?
I think the first thing that comes to mind is, I don't know if you're ever ready. I just think that for a man, are you willing to? Are you in a place? Because having a kid, it sounds like, oh, this fun and exciting thing, and it is. But it's a huge sacrifice of time. It's a lot of work. As much of a blessing it is, it's a lot of work. I think we could both attest to that. But from a man's perspective, just being honest with yourself, maybe going before in prayer and being like, am I man enough to do this right now? Am I going to be able to set aside things that maybe I want for myself in order to raise a kid? Because hopefully dads want to be hands-on and engaged with their kids and have time. So to sum that up, I don't know if you think I wasn't ready. I remember the whole process, like God helped me,
Right.
because as bad as I wanted it, and as much of a blessing as it was, I think if you know in your heart and your mind, and you've talked about with your spouse that, hey, this isn't the time, then hey, it's not the time, and there's no shame in that. We got married, and then Ruby got pregnant not too long after that, but it came down to our age. We were in our early 30s. We got married a little bit later in life. So, and it's something we talk about still, because we love traveling. We love to go. We went to Miami, Houston, San Diego. We went to Jamaica for our honeymoon, and it's something that we genuinely love doing with one another. And having a kid has changed that. And we talked about, honestly, on our last date night, how we do miss that. How that's something that we still desire to do.
Right.
But in this season of life, like our son is at what needs to come before those things. So to sum that up, I don't know if you know you're ever ready, but are you willing to sacrifice maybe a bit of who you are and what you do to have a kid?
Right. Right. That's really good. Really, really good. I mean, I agree. Even for me, even though I think our age played into why we're like, let's. I mean, we when we got married, we were super excited in the beginning, like let's have a baby, and then we got married, and we're like, maybe we should calm down a little bit and wait just a little bit, because when we started dating, from the moment he asked me to be his girlfriend to when we actually walked down the aisle and stuff, it was all in under a year. So we made the active decision that we should wait, just at least maybe a year of us just getting to know one another, enjoying time with one another. Why are you laughing?
We set out for a goal of a year, and I lovingly had to remind my wife almost every month that, hey, honey, we set a year time, and what do we make? 9 months.
We made it
And I
through
was like,
9
you know what?
months.
You're right. Let's do this. So,
Because we got married in December, and I think I got pregnant September, October of the following year. So we almost made
we
it
didn't
to
make
the
that
1
1 year
year
mark, but it's good.
But you have baby fever sometimes too, because sometimes I'm like, all right, cool, I'm good waiting for a year, and then sometimes you're like, oh, just had so much fun with the kids at church today, and
Just like that.
so it's like we went back and forth anyway on it. But I think that was a good decision that we made to kind of wait a little bit, because imagine being newlyweds, still learning one another, and then adding pregnancy to it. I think that would have been a lot for sure. So I'm thankful we waited the months that we did. What were you nervous about regarding pregnancy when we made the active decision to start trying?
What was I nervous about?
Yeah, what were you nervous about regarding pregnancy? Or any thoughts, emotions towards it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, my main concern was I wanted to have a healthy wife throughout the process and a healthy baby. Also, I didn't know a whole lot. And like we're going to talk about coming up, like there were a lot of things that I thought about pregnancy, about delivery, about what happens to a woman's body, that were completely untrue. And I learned a lot of new stuff. So I guess my biggest worry was I don't know what I'm getting into at all. And so I had to pray a lot. I had to just trust God that I don't need to know everything, and help me to love my wife, and through this process, I guess.
Yeah, it's good. I had to learn too, and I'm the woman. So at age 30, here I am, like on Dr. Google about things. So yeah. Did you do anything to improve chances of pregnancy when we started trying to conceive?
Me specifically,
Yeah.
try my best to live into the things that you shared with me. I don't know how scientific these things are, but just proper sleep, eating a little bit more healthy, which, I wasn't perfect at, but I feel like there were improvements, and less soda, less sugar, more vegetables, things like that. But again, like I was like, God, I'm trusting you. I didn't really know what to do, as far as me improving and just supporting you in the different things that you were reading. I know there was a lot of things at first, and you were very loving and gracious. I'd kind of like laugh that you're like, hey, this will help, this will help, this will help. And my first instinct would be to be a skeptic, but learning how to trust that you did your research and how I can support you in those things.
Yeah. I think because sometimes people think like, oh, it's just the woman who has to work on her body because she's carrying and all that stuff. But, even the man contributes as well. He has to have a healthy body and all that stuff like that too. So I think that's why it's important to whatever it may be, whether it's in the kitchen or being in the gym or just physical fitness and stuff. I think that matters too. That's why that question's there. So, what was something that surprised you about this season of trying? What's, I guess, a myth or a misconception that you may have had about TTC trying to conceive?
Well, I didn't realize how many things went into getting pregnant. Something that maybe I would have held on as a myth or a misbelief is like it's easy to get pregnant.
Mhm.
And I genuinely was shocked. Like, I had no idea. I've heard the word ovulation period before. I've learned about it from my father, who is an agriculture teacher. But as far as like a woman, and there's this window of the month where you have the best chances of becoming pregnant, I had no idea. I had no idea the different things that went into it. I know we have a bunch of friends who have had challenges with being pregnant. In fact, my cousin, she just went through a horrible miscarriage. Saw some very horrible things in her ultrasound. But I guess what it comes down to is, uh, yeah, it's a lot more difficult to get pregnant than I thought it was.
Mhm. Yeah. I would agree as well. I think, for me, I just thought, you give me a hug and boom, I'm pregnant or something. Like, even for me as a woman, like, I have to confess, and it's probably embarrassing to say out loud, but there's so many things, like, just even like you said, learning that fertile window. Like, you just think, oh, you have, you're intimate with your partner, whenever during the month, and voila, a baby's made. So I think that's very true for me. I'd confess as well that was a learning curve for me also. So describe, so when we started trying and had to get pregnancy tests and all that stuff, describe your reaction to seeing your first pregnancy test.
Excitement, questions, because simply I was like, does the two lines mean good? So I was
Remember that?
excited. I That was my first real like, oh wow, this is happening moment. Um, that genuinely was. It wasn't in the trying to conceive. It was when I first saw that pregnancy test where I was like, oh, stuff's getting real right now. But there was a mixture of excitement, quickly followed by, this is real. This is happening. This is no longer a dream, a plan. This is actually happening. So I would say that those were my first reactions.
Yeah, I think for me as well, I can agree. So when we started trying, the first cycle weren't successful, but I think it's because we're not knowledgeable. The timing. I think we kind of didn't do the timing correctly, and I didn't really pay attention to that. And then the second cycle, we did get pregnant, and then, but unfortunately, we had a miscarriage with that um, pregnancy. So share your thoughts and your emotions the moment I shared that I was miscarrying.
Mm. Yeah, I still remember exactly what day it was, what I was doing. I used to be a substitute teacher, and I was subbing for a sports health class at the high school.
Mm.
And I remember she knew that she couldn't call. Well, she knew she could call, but she knew that I was subbing. And so I got a text, and I literally had to get up and leave the classroom. There were kids in there. Um, I had to get up and leave because I was sad. I didn't know if I was going to control my emotions, and I'm glad I did walk out because I don't cry too often. Um, and it hit me. It hit me. And like I said, she was only pregnant for about 5 weeks. Um, but it was just sad because the little things like me laying my head on her stomach and talking to the baby and having those little cute little names for the baby, thinking about it, you kind of have these expectations and picture in your head. So yeah, I remember it was a sad thing. It was a sad thing. Um, Still something that I remember today, still something that I think about today, like the probably not the most healthy things, but what if, what could have, what would have been. Um, it was a difficult time, and supporting my wife and loving her through that time was a must. Trying to put my feelings and emotions kind of to the side, not ignoring them, but just being there for her because I knew that it weighed heavier on her because she was questioning a lot. What did I do wrong? What didn't I do right? Things like that, which that hurt me the most. Um, because she took it kind of like personally, I think, that you did something, or you didn't do something right. um, but yeah, it was not fun, and I still remember exactly where I was. I remember that feeling, and my heart really goes out to people that have gone through that. Like I said before, we know a lot of people who are unable to have kids, who have had miscarriages, family members, close friends, people in our church. And my heart goes out to people in that boat because after 5 weeks, um, it was heartbreaking. So, yeah, my thoughts, prayers, and heart go out to those people who struggle with this because it is not an easy thing.
Yeah. And I know you mentioned that you definitely focused on being there, loving me through it and stuff. But for you, how did you navigate that? Because you said you didn't like push it to the side, but also
Yeah.
you were more attentive to me. So how did you personally handle it?
I mean, first and foremost, I think that caused me to. This is not a cop out answer, but I remember this time of this season in life, like I truly had to hang on to God's word,
Mm.
that time in His word, because like my natural reaction was to be angry, upset, um, just sitting in the misery, but also talking to people.
Mm.
I remember talking with um, one of the pastors that I pastor with, and him and his wife had us over for dinner, and they've gone through this multiple times, and just talking about it, prayer, talking about it with you, um, trusting in God. Because one of the things was, oh man, does this mean we're never going to get pregnant? And I couldn't believe in the lies, and I had to just, trust God, talk with other people. Those were the two big ones for me.
Yeah, that's good. So, we decided, we went through that loss and we mourned. And I remember standing, I think I was in the kitchen, you're in the living room, just kind of talking out loud and asking like, do you want to continue trying or do you want to take a break? Because that was pretty rough for both of us. And as much as we were like eager in the future to have kids, we're like, should we take a break and let us heal a little bit emotionally?
Yeah.
I mean, according to my doctor, I was good
Yeah.
to, continue trying and stuff medically. So we decided, yes, yeah, I know you gave me the affirmation and said yes, that you'd still like to keep trying and all that, and just will trust God through that. So just to kind of sum up this portion of the trying to conceive part before we get into being able to finally conceive, what advice would you give to preserve the love and intimacy in a marriage when trying to conceive? Because, like you mentioned, it comes with a roller coaster of emotions and thoughts. What advice would you give for someone who's about to start TTC right now?
Yeah. Um, I want to share something that I did not do perfectly, something that hopefully, if we are blessed to have another kid, that I would like to do differently is not getting lost in the process, not getting lost in the information, the research, making conception the main thing. Because when I did that, I would forget my first call to love you. Um, Getting focused on, okay, when, what days, when's ovulation, what do I need to do, what should you do? But to really focus on loving you and remembering that the conception, this trying to conceive, is not the most important thing in life. It is a huge blessing. It's very important, but remembering that you come first, and not focusing so much, because there were times where we talked about we just need to stay off our phones.
Yeah.
Because there was this constant researching, this constant, like it's good to do research and educate yourself, especially if you don't know what the heck you're doing. But definitely that time where, okay, where's the cutoff point? When do I just love you, support you, and make sure that we're spending quality time together? Because we were around each other a lot. But we get lost in, oh yeah, I read this, and it became all consuming. And I knew there were times where both of us, were just like, man, like we need to stop. Like we need to, this is too much. Like I feel overwhelmed. And I think those were good conversations and good reminders that we come before the conception.
Right.
Because it's really easy to get lost in that.
Yeah. And I know for me as the woman, and I think sometimes we're guilty of that, we get so consumed with it. And I think it overwhelms the man for sure. So I apologize. And I think I may have, but I apologize for how just like, because I drowned myself. And I remember talking to one of my good friends, and she's like, you need to calm down, like chill out. Yeah. I remember she was even like, go somewhere, just get a hotel or something and just relax, have a little getaway with your husband, and just don't even think about that and just rest and relax and stop obsessing over it, and I was really happy that she kind of snapped me out of it too, with me and you having that conversation, but also having this external force, because she was in a similar situation whereby they were trying to conceive for a while, and they weren't successful the first several times. So it was really nice for her to kind of be my outside force to also be like, snap out of it, Ruby, and focus on your husband, keep loving your husband, and by God's grace, in his time, it's gonna happen, So.
And I'm thankful too. There, I do remember a few times where I specifically said, like, you're exhausting me and overwhelming me with all this stuff. And you took that very, very well. I wasn't trying to attack, but I just genuinely, like, every day being bombarded with everything. Again,
I was reading. I heard.
They're not bad things.
No, I'm like, I was just making fun of myself. Yeah. But honey, I heard. Honey, I was reading this. It's like, okay.
I felt a lot of validation when we went to our OBGYN. And he kept asking Ruby, where'd you hear that? And she kept saying, on the internet. He's like, hon, half the stuff you read on the internet is crap, and the other half is complete crap. And so I was like inside a little bit like, but no, you responded really well when I said, hey, like, I am overwhelmed. Like, I can't do this every single minute that we're together. And you responded very well. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
You look beautiful, by the way.
Oh, thank you. You look handsome. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next portion of it. So we went through the loss, and then, my OB said all was clear after everything had kind of been flushed out of my system. And, I think it took 1 or 2 cycles later. So then my period returned. I started my period again. And my cycle was normal again. And by God's grace, we continued trying. And then we were able to conceive. Yeah. And we got pregnant. And the nice thing about my OBGYN was that with him, we can go pretty early on. Because I know a lot of people, it's like 10 weeks, 12 weeks out, or 8 weeks. But I think for us, we were able to get our first prenatal visit about 5 to 6 weeks or so.
Yeah.
And so we went to that prenatal visit just to be able to see what's going on, like baby wise and all that stuff. So describe the moment we had our first prenatal visit with my OB and seeing our baby for the first time through the ultrasound.
Yeah. Um, I remember just being so anxious because of our, early loss before. There was a lot of anxiety going into it. I didn't know what to expect. I think every man can relate with me. Like, you're like, oh, another man's going to be searching in places, that are maybe uncomfortable to watch. But regardless of the anxiety, um, the nerves, because of what had happened previously, um, I broke down in tears. Like, again, I don't cry that often, but this was another moment when I heard the heartbeat. Like, you can't see much that first one, but when he focused in on the heartbeat and he told us, that's your kid, I lost it. And my wife was a little bit more vocal and saying things, and I just remember having tears running down my eyes and like praising God and happy, joyful, a little bit scared, because again, like I said, when I saw the pregnancy test, it was my first "this is real" moment. This is my second, like, oh, this is real moment. And there were a lot of these in this process, but there were different times along the path that I was like, yeah, this is happening. And that was one of those ones. So it was a mixture of anxiety going into it for days before, because we knew it wasn't this last minute appointment. Like, we knew. So the anxiety going into it, but just joy. I remember having just tears, because I was like, this is surreal to me. I've heard about when you see or hear the first heartbeat, but I don't think anything can prepare you for it until you go in and you see that for yourself, your own kid. Just overwhelmed with
surreal.
joy.
Yeah. I agree with you too, because it's like you've heard all these stories, you've seen all these things, but when it happens, and of course I think also, some of our emotions was also fueled from just having been through loss in the past, and because we never even got to that stage for that first time, and so it's just so surreal that here we are, because like you said, we had so much anxiety going into that appointment. Just be history and stuff, because it's like, you can test positive and then you go in and then there's no heartbeat. Like, those are things that could happen, and then unfortunately you may be told it's not going to be a viable pregnancy and stuff, and so it definitely was a surreal moment, and it was, you said it best, but I think I should stop talking because I might get emotional. So the next question would be, we had our baby, everything was sound, and then I think around maybe 10 weeks or so, he did the blood test whereby he was able to determine, find out what the gender of our son is and stuff like that. So, and then we had a gender reveal, which was super cute, with the basketball reveal. And so describe what was like your emotion finding out that we're having a boy? Because it's like, okay, we know we're having a baby, but now you can say my son. What was that like? Share any emotions or thoughts that you had about that?
Yeah. So you always asked me, what do you want, a boy and a girl? And because of what happened, I just wanted a healthy kid. Right. Like, I didn't play your game for a long time because I was just like, I don't care. And it sounds like so cheesy and corny, but I just wanted a healthy kid.
Right.
But I remember the 2 weeks leading up to our gender reveal, like I was telling you, I'm like, I think I want a girl, which is weird because I have always, if it's like my dream scenario, I want a boy first. I want my oldest to be a boy. He could be the protector, all those different things. But I have a lot of friends that are girl dads, and I have seen how having a girl has like softened them, shapen them, like, and it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So 2 weeks leading up, I was like, yeah, I think it's going to be a girl. And then started playing the game more. Yeah, it's going to be a girl, all these things. But the minute that I shot the basketball, completely missed the rim, missed the shot, hit the backboard. And I saw and I saw blue powder flying everywhere. Again, first reaction was, oh crap, this is real. Like this was my third, like this is happening. But I don't know, she was jumping up. If you've seen her video, she was jumping up higher than I've ever seen, screaming. And
right next to snow that I could
yeah,
possibly fall.
I was just more like, I don't know. People were asking me like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm extremely happy. But again, I was just processing so much different things, but super happy that we have a boy. Like, I love him very much. He's a blessing in our lives.
Yeah.
But, and quick thing, I was very against doing a gender reveal for a while. I was like, oh my gosh, we're going to be one of these corny, like everyone does this. We're going to do this. I finally was like, okay, let's do it. The coolest part, other than finding out we were having a boy, is how many people support us. Mm-hmm. We had a little party. My mom hosted us over at her house with my father and just had finger foods and had some of our closest friends come. And many of them showed up, which was, it was just cool to know that we were supported. And then seeing that blue powder go everywhere, it's like, okay, I'm going to be a boy dad. And then I could start preparing myself for exactly what I'm getting into. But again, oh man, this is real. Mm-hmm. That was the third time where I was like, okay, this is happening.
This is for realsies. Yeah, because I know like I definitely, of course, wanted a healthy baby, but I don't know. I always envisioned my first child to be a boy. And so I was so like laser focused. And for me I'm a believer, and to be able, like, I pray specific prayers. Of course, I was praying, God, please give us a healthy baby. But I was like, God, I need my boy. So like to be in that position whereby, and your mom did an amazing job hiding it, because his mom was the only one who knew the gender of the baby and stuff. I had my OB's office call her, and so to let her know, because she's the one who set up the party and everything. So, and she did an amazing job even hiding it from your dad. And so
he would have been the one to spill the beans.
I know it was.
So her keeping it from him, I was more impressed.
I know, that was a miracle. So
I love my mom, but she doesn't tend to share things with people.
She gets excited.
I was very proud. Yes, I was very proud of her.
But it was just like, it was so cool to just, and I'm like, of course, if I had a daughter, I'd have been happy. I feel like if we had a daughter, would be broke, because I'd buy her all the cutest things. There are way too many things for girls, and she'll be my mini me, and I'll just spoil her. So it's probably best we have a boy anyway, just for like our finances. But
so you're selling our son short.
He gets really cool stuff too, but if you go to the stores, there are way more things. You've seen that for girls versus boys. But I was just excited because he's like, to God be the glory. I'm pregnant. Our family is growing, and then I also get my boy. And I think I was just so overwhelmed with so many emotions and was super excited and stuff like that. So, and I think for you, like, I was teasing you about it, but you just kind of had the somber look, because I think you're just kind of taking it all in. Like you said, that was your third moment of like, this is happening. This is real. So I completely understand. I just wanted to
This woman was so excited. There was still snow on the ground. I went to hug her the first time, and I was like, you were sweating.
I know.
You were having a good
I was
time.
excited. I was excited. I get my baby boy. So, okay. Moving on. So now, to God be the glory. We passed that first trimester, and, pregnancy is healthy and all is going well. And would you say were some of the challenges? What were some of the most challenging aspects of pregnancy for you?
Oh, man. There were a lot of changes happening with you. I remember one, like, I'll share it. It was difficult for me. Like, it was much more comfortable for you to sleep on the couch, because you could prop yourself up and everything. And while I understood that, I still missed going to bed with you. And while that helped you with sleeping, my desires where, well, I want my wife in my bed and I can snuggle with her and lay with her. Um, that one was, and then just a constant reminder of she's going through a lot mentally, physically, emotionally. And how do I love her through this? Because it's a big change and you were going through a lot. And there were just a lot of things to adjust to. But one of the ones that it doesn't seem like a big deal, but I remember it weighed a lot because it wasn't just her on the couch and me in the bed. My mind went to places of, well, is she attracted to me anymore? Does she still love me? And so I really had to combat those lies with like every day, day by day, reminding myself like of who God is, and then reminding myself that hey, she's pregnant, knucklehead. Like she's going through a lot. Like quit being so selfish. It's not about you. But if I'm being honest, that was because it wasn't just you on the couch, me in the bed, but it was those lies that came with it. So yeah.
Yeah. And also, what was the other one? So, like with the smells, remember I became very
That was your
sensitive.
struggle. That wasn't mine. You could talk about that.
So, one of the struggles I had when I was pregnant was that my sense of smell was so heightened that I remember, what was it? We were traveling to Oklahoma, right? Yeah, it was when we were going to Oklahoma, and we were at the airport. And I was there and I was like, I can smell the paint.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh my good. Like I could, and I
Salt
think
Lake
they may
Airport.
have painted that like airport probably like, few years ago or something. But the like my sense of smell was so heightened. And I'm the type, I barely smell stuff. My husband was just like, do you smell it? I'm like, no. But then when I was pregnant, I could smell everything, which was just irritating. And somehow one of the things that irritated me was my husband, like his toiletries and stuff like that. So like, and like, of course he'll have a lip balm and stuff before bed, because we live in a dry area. And I remember would have to do a goodnight kiss first before he puts it on, because it's like I won't even be able to kiss him because of that. And like I think and this deodorant, like it annoyed me. It's crazy because we use the same soap, but somehow it was like I couldn't like be around him when he had just come out of the shower. But I use the same soap too to shower. But I was fine with it. It was a mess.
When I was the most cleanly and smelling good is when it bothered her. So it was like, yeah.
I don't pregnancy is weird. But yeah. So for in terms of giving advice to someone, how can a man be there for his wife as she goes through these emotions and the pregnancy symptoms like I did? Like I went through nausea, heartburns, fatigue. Yeah. And
Serve her and love her. And what I mean by serve her, ask her what she needs. Whether that's you coming home from work, just ask her, what can I help with? Know that I'm available. Like put her needs above your own. I remember doing many late night craving runs, and some of the strangest things. Like she went through a couple of weeks of wanting those like cup of noodles, ramen noodle things, the really cheap ones. But just being willing to be like, okay, this is what she needs from me. Help me to love her well, and then just um, again recognizing and remembering that this is a season of life. It may be difficult. Things may change, but how am I going to love her? And if she needs me to um, heat up or get a towel nice and warm for her forehead, if she needs me to just give her space, like honestly, just like what she says goes, what she needs, I get it. Again, serving her and then loving her in the midst of it. Um, One of the things that I learned is our intimacy and love, while sex is a big part of that. Um, we can be intimate and I can feel love from her and vice versa when there's times during that it's just like, yeah, this isn't going to happen. So remembering that, you know, she comes first, that I need to serve her. Um, what am I going to lay down for her today? What am I going to give up of my own personal wants and desires to love her through this process? Because, I mean, the women carry the brunt of pregnancy. Like we get the easy part of it. So how am I going to love you and serve you through that?
Yeah, that's good. Thank you. So, what was, I guess you've shared a lot of stuff, but was there anything really that surprised you about the season of pregnancy? In addition to all the other things you've said, was there anything that like you can think of that, oh, I didn't know that. I didn't even think about
I
that.
just, yeah, I just feel like it was like a daily, weekly learning.
Mm.
So a lot of things surprised me, like the little things, big things. I learned what a body pillow was. There was so much like, and I guess if I had advice for guys that your wife is, you guys are trying to conceive or she's pregnant, just be okay with that. Be flexible. Go into it knowing I'm not going to know everything. Be able to pivot and be able to adjust that. Hey, like this isn't what I was told. This isn't what I read. But help me to love my wife through those times because there's a lot of stuff that caught me off guard that I didn't know about. So remaining teachable, being humble, being able to listen to my wife when she would share things with me. Yeah, just be ready because there were a lot of surprises. You know, little things, big things. Um, yeah, stay ready, be teachable.
That's good. What does, so, I think, gosh, I forgot how many we did, but was it monthly prenatal visits we did in the
Mhm.
beginning or so, and
Yeah,
then after that it became what, every two
every
weeks, every
other,
other,
yeah,
and
yeah,
then every week and stuff. So
yeah.
as the pregnancy progresses, but what does a man need to know about prenatal doctor visits?
Um,
Because I know that there's some men who are intentional about going to
yeah,
those. Some may not be able to attend because of work obligations or other reasons. But for someone, a man who's interested in going, who wants to be there to support for those prenatal doctor visits.
yeah. First of all, if you want to go, like, hats off to you. That's awesome. Um, I wasn't able to go to everyone. I think I missed a couple of them with you because of either
Just
being
two, yeah.
just, yeah, because I was out of town or just genuinely had something that I was doing that I couldn't skip out on. But I made it a priority to be there. So if you are willing to and able to go with your wife, man, that's a huge support. And my hat's off to you. That's an amazing way to love her. Going into it, like I said, it's weird at first to see another man, you know, putting hands in places that like are for me to place my hands on my wife. But I got over that pretty quickly. Our OB was one thing I really loved about him is like he didn't take himself too seriously. I remember the first time when he was putting the gel on the
The probe.
the probe
Yeah.
to check the baby. He's getting ready, it's going in, and looks over, and I was wearing my Atlanta Braves hat, and he says, "So you're a Braves fan, huh?" "Yeah, I'm a Yankees fan." So we just like, and I was like, at first, I was like, "But like, pay attention!" Like my head's going all over the place, but then I was like, this made this so much less awkward.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. It's an amazing thing to see ultrasounds, but maybe just be on guard. That I think we talked about it. We're like, why do we have so much anxiety this week? Like, why aren't we sleeping well? And we're like, oh yeah, we've
We have
got
an
our
appointment
appointment
coming
in a
up.
couple days.
Yeah.
Because while those things are blessings, it's just like you don't know if today is going to be the day that you learn heartbreaking news.
Mhm.
But I think that's it. I don't. Yeah.
Yeah. There really isn't much. And yeah, like he said, there were only two that he missed. And so I was also blessed though, because one of them I got to go with your mom. So she got to experience that with me, which was really cool. And then another one was one of my
Yeah.
friends who went with me as well. And she got to experience that, to go to that. But all the other ones you attended, which was really, really neat and such a blessing that you were there. So, just before we wrap up the pregnancy category, just wanted to get some quick thoughts on some things that have to do with pregnancy. So, what are your thoughts on social media pregnancy announcements, announcing like on Facebook?
At
Twitter.
first, I was like, "What's the big deal? Let's share with everyone." And you were in the opposite mindset.
Mhm.
And after having a miscarriage, I see where that can be valuable of waiting. Um, and we did the second time. We waited a lot longer to tell people because that means the less times we have to, answer questions and talk to people. And the more and more I think about it, this is something between us and God and our kid. I have nothing against doing that, but just me personally putting it all over social media. I'm a pretty reserved person. I don't have any social media just because I'm like I'm gonna do things and just do them and enjoy them, and I don't need the world to see them. And then B, like I don't like the spotlight. Even right now, if you were to feel my heart, it's kind of beating. Like I'm just more of a reserved. I'm an introvert, so I totally like see where you were coming from. And I think moving forward, like we did after our loss, like just being a little bit more reserved, keep those things close to the chest. Like that's primarily between her and I. And there's some things that like I just don't think it's wise to blast and let the whole world know about. Some things can be handled in house, if you say. Again, nothing against them, but that's just my personal
Yeah.
like how that works for you and I. And I definitely see what you're talking about. Because I at first I was like, what's the big deal? Yeah, let people know. Yeah, but you never know what's going to happen. And um, just between us, that's what I think is best for us. Now that may be different from everyone else, but based on our experiences, based on who we are as people, um, that's what worked best for us.
Yeah. Yeah. So for our pregnancy with our son, we did not announce at all. I guess me, because I'm the one with social media, but I did not until he was born. Then I was like, oh, by the way, I was pregnant. Oh, by the way, here's the baby. And that was more of a cultural reason and stuff, because like with Sierra Leoneans, because pregnancy can be such a sensitive thing and you never know what could happen. And also it's, the superstition that you don't want any bad eyes on your pregnancy or anything. So I never posted on social media that I was pregnant at all the entire 9 months. Just hid it, posting old pictures as if like nothing's going on and stuff. And if I picture was gonna go online, I would put something in front of my belly, kind of cover it up. It's like as if I was a celebrity. It's like, celebrities when they're hiding pregnancies. So I would hide like something in front of me and stuff to not show my belly. But that was more of the Sierra Leonean belief of just you keep that a private thing. But also having been through loss, it's so difficult to say here I am being pregnant. And I remember, that first pregnancy, we had told some friends of ours, close friends, and then unfortunately went through the loss. And it's like having to go back and say, oh, I'm so sorry. Unfortunately, had a loss was really difficult. That was another part of struggle for us too. And I've shared that in a previous video about talking about first trimester struggles. But so that's one of the reasons, all those reasons, the superstition, Sierra Leonean cultural things, and also just fear of loss was another reason why I never shared it on social media until our son was born. And I just kind of did like a huge pregnancy slash baby reveal and all and stuff like that. And he was very loving and understanding about that. What are your thoughts on gender reveal? Gender reveals.
I was, like I said, I was completely like not for it. And then I was like, you know what? My wife really wants this. So I was like, cool, we're going to do it. I wasn't as strongly passionate against it as she was for it. And after doing it, it was good. Like I said, the coolest part about it, other than finding out our gender, was the support of people and just like having them around.
That was really cool. Yeah. For me, I used to always think gender reveals are corny, but I was just like, why not just do all the things? So when we got pregnant, and because he was initially just kind of like, this is weird. So I think when we're deciding what kind of reveal we wanted to do, he loves basketball. So I was like, okay, this would be the way to compromise. And I was like, well, how about we do a gender reveal that's basketball reveal? And so with that, he can get his favorite sport out, and then I could get the reveal. So I think that was a good compromise. Yes, no, maybe. Yes. All right. What are your thoughts about baby showers?
Another one of these things that I was like, what? Co-ed baby shower. I'd never been to one in my entire life.
Co-ed, yeah, that's
and
the key question.
It was a lot of fun. We had some really good friends host, shout out to Maud and Charles. They offered up their home to us, which was awesome because we were living in a tiny apartment. So that was a huge blessing. She had some friends that helped decorate, set things up. Um, it was just a lot of fun. Like I genuinely like it was fun. We had different games. One that I really failed at. Now I think I could win.
Oh, and eyes closed.
We had the dolls and the guys had to change the diaper on the baby or put a diaper on the doll. And oh man, I was far off. Didn't practice beforehand. I was like, I opened up a diaper. I'm like, oh yeah, how hard could this be? And now I feel like I could do it with my eyes closed, no problem. But it was a lot of fun. Food, family, friends, had people come from out of town. It was a lot of fun. Again, something that I was like, it turned out to be an awesome time.
Yeah, it was really cool just to have that experience and stuff like that. Cause I think I think a key thing you said too was like, having it be co-ed, because I think it's usually mostly like, just like female focused and just like have a baby shower for the woman. But for Sierra Leoneans, we usually do a co-ed baby shower. So I wanted it to be that. And I'm like, he's not having a baby too. I may be carrying, but we're both having the baby. So it was really cool because I think your grandpa, one of your grandpas actually said, this is the first baby shower I've ever attended. And he's 93
at the time.
90. Yeah. He's like, this is the first baby shower I've ever attended. And, you had some family members and had some friends as well who are like, yeah, I'm a guy. I've never been to a baby shower. So that was kind of neat to have husbands and guys and just male friends there too, to experience our baby shower. So I think that was another cool cultural difference that we got to experience. What about baby moons? What's your
I don't know. It's like, yeah, if you can do it, if you have the resources and doing it. We did one before the baby.
Right. Yeah. It's a baby moon. If you don't know what that is, it's basically going on a trip or a vacation or something before the baby's born. So while pregnant.
It was cool. We went to San Diego, had some really good food, did some fun things. Again, it's different because she was very pregnant at the time. Yeah. But yeah, if you can do it, I'm not for or against. I just think if it's right for you, if you have the resources, the time, if your wife who is pregnant feels up for it, then do it. But I don't think if you don't go on one, like, yeah, that's for everyone. I had a good time.
I did.
I definitely was like, baby moon. Again, one of these things that I had to learn. I was like, what the heck is a baby? That's a real thing?
It's a real thing.
So yeah, it was fun though. Shout out San Diego. That was fun.
That was a fun trip. Like, it was really cool. What about push presents?
I wish. This is something that makes me feel less of a man, because I didn't know what a push present was, and you're supposed to buy your wife something after she pushes out a kid. And like I said, I'm a pastor. I love my job very much, but I definitely am not killing the game monetarily. And so I wish I could get her a Range Rover or a really nice bracelet, or, like it is what it is. Yeah. Like, I think, yeah, sure. If you can, great. And I'm not saying I couldn't. It's just babies are expensive.
And that's the priority.
I didn't want to make a silly financial decision.
Right.
Spending a couple grand on something, which I could have, but in the long run, it's like,
it's not the wisest choice. Okay, for sure.
Yeah. So if you can, great. If you can't, try to just, it is what it is.
Yeah. Be wise about it. You don't have to do all the things, I just
Next question, please.
Okay, awesome. So next, we're going to move on to the third category, which is labor and delivery, childbirth, and all that good stuff. So with us, because of the timing of being pregnant, we couldn't do in-person birthing classes. We had to do ours online, and that was due to COVID. In-person classes, they hadn't restarted them yet. So we took about maybe 5, 6 or so birthing classes. Yeah. Half of them I would fall asleep because the fatigue was real. during that time because I think he watched more than I did. But I'll be so tired. And it was Zoom. You got to keep me engaged. And half the time, some of the instructors were really monotone. And I was heavily pregnant. And yeah, so I slept through a good chunk of it. So you could probably tell me more about how it went. But what were two key takeaways that you got from the birthing classes we did?
The first thing is, I feel like every doula or people that teach these classes, they all have different things,
Mm.
which isn't bad. But one specifically that I took away, we specifically remember one of them. They spent a lot of time on the labor process and pre-labor process, and one of the things that she spent a lot of time on was, hey, when your water breaks, don't rush to go to the hospital. Like, labor in the comfort of your own home, like soak in a bath. Like, do you want to do it in your own home, or do you want to do it in an uncomfortable hospital? And so that's what I took away and what she took away. And obviously, when that came, our OB had something different to say when he learned that we were still at home after her water broke hours and hours later. So just knowing that you're going to get different information from different, which isn't bad, it may be confusing, but also I wanted to go to those things because, again, I didn't know what I was getting into. Um, and I think they were very, very beneficial for me as a man. I highly recommend them because I learned a lot. Sometimes it's information overload, and I too they were usually like afternoon, like middle of the afternoon, evening. So it's that time when you're
It's a
like,
long day. Yeah.
and I wish I would have taken notes, but there's just so much information. But I did have like a couple takeaways from each one that I still remember today. So if you have an opportunity to attend those, guys, do it. They're a blessing.
Absolutely. I agree. The next question would be, so one of the things that we were advised is to have a hospital bag, hospital suitcase, whatever it may be, and stuff like that, whereby if you don't know what that is, a hospital bag is basically just your suitcase that you pack up to go to the hospital or wherever you're going to go give birth if it's not a home birth. So you can have all like your toiletries, your essentials, maybe stuff for the baby and stuff for your husband, for your partner, spouse, and stuff like that. And so what do you think a man should have in their hospital bag or suitcase so that it can be better prepared to stay at the hospital or the birthing center that they're going to?
A pillow, comfortable clothes, and if you can, it may not fit in a bag, like a little like cot that you bring camping or something. I'm 6'3", and I just remember some of the nights until they brought me like a kind of like a futon that folds out into a bed that I still had to cram into and lay diagonally. Um, it's not the most, at least the hospital we were at. I know some of them are different, but there's times where you get little parts of sleep, and if you're not able to sleep because you're simply just don't fit in the furniture or you're uncomfortable, it can be very frustrating because you don't get a lot of sleep with everything going on. But I would say a pillow, comfortable clothes, and if you can, like some like cot that comes in a bag that you can unfold and it sets up so you can sleep, because you don't get a lot of sleep. And one of the most frustrating things was, okay, I've got this window to sleep and I'm exhausted, but I simply couldn't because my legs are hanging off the chair this far. And yeah, um, comfortable clothes, pillow, and then snacks. Snacks are big. They fed me, and it was good food, and they fed her, and it was good food for the most part. But in between, because I did leave a couple times, she wanted Subway. She was craving Subway, so I went and got a sandwich for both of us. But yeah.
Yeah. And also just like when you labor, you check in and stuff like that before delivery happens or anything like that, I would highly recommend that you please, please, please ask your doctor or nurse or whomever the birthing person is. Make sure you ask them if you can be able to eat. Because I know some hospitals, once you check in, they say like, you just have to chew on ice and stuff like that. But ask your doctor or your nurse if you can eat, because I'm so happy that I did. Because I asked my nurse, I was like, can you check with my OB? Can I eat something? Because I was starving. We were nowhere close to the end, like close to delivery at the point. And so I'm so happy that I asked the nurse to ask the OB, and she was reluctant, but then my OB said yes, you can be able to eat. And my husband went and got me Subway, and I had this huge sandwich, and I'm so happy I did, because like I still had to labor for many more hours, and delivery was like many hours away. And so make sure that you ask about that, because your OB might say yes, that's totally fine with them to do that, and it's safe to do that, so you can have a nice snack. That's so important. All right. So those are really good advice, honey. All right. So what were you nervous about regarding childbirth?
Everything.
Yeah.
Like everything. I again, first time learning how to do it, being able to go with the flow. Just again, whatever my wife needed from me in that time, I just tried to stay in a constant, like, I'm here for her, uh, regardless of how I'm feeling, whatever. Like, let me be here for her, because they could prepare you and everything, and it's great, but until you're in it,
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah, that's real.
Yeah.
So I went into labor. In terms of when I mean labor, is my water broke. So we went to bed, and my water broke around like 1 a.m. or so of that morning, really early morning, and we're in bed and like sleeping, and I just kind of felt the pop happen, and then I touched your arm, and then I told you I was in labor, and like my water had broken stuff. So describe that moment that I went into labor. What like your thoughts and emotions at that time? I don't know if you
Yeah.
had you even fallen asleep yet, or
Yeah,
you
I
still
was
you were asleep,
asleep.
huh? Because it was 1 a.m.
I just remember her, like, I remember being woken up, and like she grabbed me about right here, and she said, "Honey, I think my water broke." So I was like, "Okay. Are, are, are you sure? How do you know?" And she's like, "I felt something pop." And so I'm like, "Okay." And I don't really remember, but I got up. I don't know what we saw. Okay, let's go find out or whatever. But I just remember getting up and walking to the end of the bed. I was putting on my shorts, a shirt, or whatever. And I just remember you standing up, and we have like hard floors, no carpet. And I remember the minute she stood up, it was like a splash of water, and I was like, "Yep, your water
It
broke."
broke, all right.
So again, it was one of these like scrambling through my mind of, okay, what do I do? What do we do, based on our birthing classes, based on some of the baby books we've read. And the first reaction was, "Oh, hurry, we need to go." I think we both remained very calm. But then we started talking, and that's when we recollected that this birthing class, she was like, labor in the comfort of your own home. Unless there is blood coming out, obvious
All
like
right.
things, labor in the comfort of your own home. But again, this was another one of those, this is real moments. Like, this is happening. I've only seen or heard about this in movies, and here it is. Literally, the water like
Yeah,
splash.
that was, I think I wasn't mentally prepared for that either, because it popped, and then of course I started feeling the bed getting wet. And I think that was one of the first things you did too, is like to kind of change the sheet so it doesn't sink in and stuff like that into it. But I like, it literally was fluid coming out, and that shocked me too, because I just thought it was like, oh, just a little drip and stuff. But it was just like, and I remember sitting in the bathroom for like a while and just sit there so that all will come out, and then I took a shower afterwards, and I remember having to wear a pad as well, because it just was pouring out, so it literally was water, and that was another shock for me as the woman too. So yeah. And that, another thing I wanted to touch base on is us with respect to like, you saying that we were started thinking now, okay, what did we learn in the birthing classes and the stuff too, is it's that's why it's highly recommended that whomever is pregnant has some kind of partner doing these classes, because I feel like I went blank when I went into labor, and it was really a blessing that my husband was around, and just kind of reminded me, well, we learned this and our doctor said this and that and blah blah blah, because I went blank. I just went into a mode of shock. So it's nice to have like a support partner that will remind you of the things that you learned in these birthing classes, and you don't have to kind of think on all these things your own. It may not be a spouse, maybe it can be like your sibling or parent or friend or something like that, or doula, whomever it may be, of course. But those are that, I think that was another benefit too of having to do those classes with you. Um, so went to the hospital. What roles do you think men can play when it comes to the labor process?
Again, I learned a lot of different things in those birthing classes, but just being there for support, like honestly posturing yourself in a position of like, I'm helping her with whatever she needs. Limiting the comments, the resistantness, like the resistance, but just genuinely like, yeah, if she tells me this is what's going to help her, like be ready to help her with that. I would say that.
Yeah, that's good.
Just whatever she needs, be there for her. Um, Me bringing my attitude, thoughts, or opinion to the party is not going to make it better. It's going to make it worse. And she's already going through extreme different pains and stuff. So I really tried to just keep my mouth shut, be loving, supporting. I didn't do it perfectly, but that was my goal. How can I support her during this time? So yeah.
You did an amazing
Well,
job.
thank
You
you.
did it perfectly. And you never told me to relax.
Oh yeah, relax. Just calm down.
Calm down.
It's gonna be okay.
You never told me that, because
That was another takeaway from the birthing class. They said one of the worst things husband or birthing partner you can do is just tell her to relax. It's gonna be okay. So
calm down.
when she wanted something or when she needed to vent or express things, I was there to listen and I was there to help.
Yeah, yeah. And also the sandwich run. That's another
Yeah.
great
Well,
role
I
that
wanted a sandwich too. So actually, yeah, I did.
yeah, we both did.
Yeah.
And it was great. So
Shout out Subway.
shout out to Subway. Get us an endorsement. This is not sponsored by Subway.
Thanks.
But describe the moment that, so I labored for a while, and then we found out that as whenever I had contractions, as the contractions intensified, our son's heart rate would decrease as they were monitoring it. And so based on what the OB was observing, it was not wise to make it all the way to 10 and for me to push, because he realized that was detrimental to our son's um health and stuff like that, or his life really. And so I think I dilated up to 6 or so, and then he was like, I think we need to have an emergency C-section, cesarean section and stuff like that. So describe that moment when we agreed to have the emergency C-section, and also maybe giving tips to someone who they may have to make some birth plan changes, because I know some people go in there. My OB doesn't do birth plans. He's just like, no, we're just going to go with the flow, which I respect that. But some people, they may have a birth plan, they have printed out and everything. However, a change may happen to that. How can someone adjust to having those changes? Because the goal was to have traditional birth, like pushing and stuff, but it ended up having a C-section.
So what were your questions? Sorry.
Sorry, no. So the question is, what was that moment like when we decided we needed to have an emergency
Okay.
C-section, and kind of changing plans of what we had gone in there for?
Yeah, we our birth plan was basically her just letting me know what she wants, things to remind and support her when the doctor may try to change those things. Um, and we both wanted to have a natural birth. I know that's something that we were very strongly, wanting. And I just remember the nurses, like they were amazing. Like they did a lot of help. And I remember specifically every time she would be contracting, the heartbeat would just like, and I I tried my best to not overwhelm her with this, but I was sitting right by the actual machine that like shows the beats per minute and it shows all these things. And every time she would like she'd contract, it would like drop, 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 then stop. And then when she comes out of it, his heart rate would go back up. So I saw this happening for uh, close to an hour, and it was getting more and more sharp, like it was happening more often.
Mm.
And the minute he walked in, he said, done. The doctor walked in, OB walked in and said, hey, we need to get that baby out of here. And here's why. And when he explained what was going on, that every time she was contracting and the baby was going down, he believed that the umbilical cord was wrapped around his neck, which it happened to be. So every time the baby was being forced down, it was like choking him.
Yeah.
So he's going down, and it's stopping his breathing. And once he explained it to me and her, I was like, I don't really need to hear anymore, because it made complete sense to me. And again, like, as badly as I wanted a birth plan, like whatever we decided we wanted a natural birth, like, I'm not a doctor. And it was a scary moment because I know he left for a little bit, and then came back in while we were talking. And he basically said, no, we need to do this. Because even in that amount of time that he left, he could just hear. He didn't have to look at anything. He came in and he could hear what the machine was doing. He's like, no, we need to get him out. And just like, it was a lot of trust in God, a lot of trust in our OB that, yeah, he's done this far more many times. I've never done it. She'd never done it. So we're trusting him. And then just, yeah, going through with that. But it wasn't easy, but also, like, I felt like it was the right thing to do. She felt like it, and I completely trusted what he said, based on what I was seeing, based on who he is as an OB. Like, all right, let's do it.
Yeah. And so we agreed, signed papers, got the epidural administered and all that stuff like that. And then describe that moment, because I know you've shared that with me, how like nerve-wracking it was, but just whereby it's like, okay, we decided. And when we had checked in during all the hours that I was laboring, there were only like 2 people max we were seeing, and the OB, and then all of a sudden 20 million people ascended in our room.
So yeah, I just want
Describe
to
that.
correct something. Like, the minute that we said we're going to do the C-section, like, the epidural had already taken place before that.
Right.
So it was like, we're doing the C-section. And then literally he called out in the lobby, said what they were doing, and there was about 8 to 10 people that came in, started unplugging things, getting her ready to move her in the bed. And I'm just sitting here like, well, okay, like, this is happening. And I remember a nurse came up to me. She gave me the scrubs and a hairnet and the little booties that you put over your shoe. And she said, get into these, but you can't come until we come and let you know. And I was just like, okay. It wasn't like, part of me wanted to kick and scream and fight and say, that's my wife. But like, again, I was just in shock. It happened so quickly. But I remember when they were wheeling her out on the bed, in this emergency C-section situation, and I had to stay in that room, still was one of the most difficult things. Probably the most difficult thing, other than our loss. This was the most difficult thing because I was completely helpless. And I just remember pacing around the room and praying. And I still remember what I was praying. It was basically like, God help, God help. Like, I can't do anything. God help. You are all powerful. Help. Be with my wife. Like, they were very short, just over and over and over again. And then they came in and got me. And then I think it was 10, 15 minutes, but I walk into the operating room and they had already started. And so instead of me asking questions, whatever, I went right up to where my wife was and just supported her, held her hand, talked with her. But it was scary to watch my wife be wheeled out and me having to stay during a intense procedure where the birth plan didn't really go as we thought. But just, again, being able to be flexible and trusting God.
Yeah, absolutely. So the surgery happened. I threw up in between it, and then I felt much better after I threw up. And then, like, we could both hear the doctors in the background just talking, pass me this, do this. Of course, I couldn't feel any of the pain because I had the epidural and all that stuff. And then our son was born, and it happened so quickly. I didn't even get a glimpse of him. Like he was taken away from the OB and taken to the other room, and then you went in
Mhm.
there. Describe that, share that moment of you going in the other room with him and your
Yeah.
first interaction
This
with
is
him.
this is another one of those like surprises of mine because in movies it's like they come right out and they're like crying and mom gets to hold right away and um again had no idea what to expect, but I could hear them saying, "Yeah, we got him out." And I just remember he made a little noise when he first came out. Our son did, but then nothing else. And they carried him into another room. I went with them, and I just remember the first time seeing him. The color, it was like this bluish dark color. He wasn't moving. There was four different doctors, nurses around him on this little, I don't even know what you call it, but it's basically a little bed. And they were putting something on his chest. They were suctioning his mouth. They were moving him in different ways. And I just saw a lifeless little baby right there. And what I just remember sitting there and I was going like literally with my hands on my face just because I didn't want to interrupt what they were doing. I wasn't asking, I was literally in shock. It was 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
I was tired. Um, but he started coughing after about like, I don't know, I'd say 3, 4 minutes. And you could almost see instantly his color changing slowly. Um, but, and then after that, you know, one of the things that we did tell the doctor is she was getting stitched up and coming out of the surgery. But Ruby had talked to me and I'd learned about skin to skin contact and the time that was. So I actually got that first contact with him, um, which it was very special. Um, but can I keep it real?
Yeah.
It was amazing holding my son. He's so small. This is the first time I've really ever that I held a baby this small. I've held babies before, but never this small. And so I was very nervous because what a fragile thing I'm holding. But also my shirt was off, and my chest hair and everything was sticking all over him because he's so sticky. And he was looking for nipple, like he wanted to be fed. And so I was holding him and trying to enjoy this moment, but also picking out all my hairs off his lips, mouth, face, like, uh, yeah. And it was a beautiful time, but also if I'm being honest, it was real. Like,
Yeah.
what am I doing? This is great. I love him, but
Yeah. So just with the experience and everything, is there anything else that maybe may have shocked you or surprised you about the delivery and labor time and all that? We're wrapping up this section. I think you covered a lot.
yeah, I mean, like I said, just to put a cap on it, I think a lot of things surprised me. Um, Not necessarily in a bad way. It's just like everything in life, until we go through it, we have different ideas based on other people's stories, movies, books, whatever. But um, for guys, go into it in a posture of, okay, I'm not sure what's going to happen, because you can always have a plan, and you should, but it doesn't always work out that way. There were a lot of surprises, so just be ready for that. Be ready for curveballs.
So now we're
That's a
gonna.
sports ball analogy. It's a pitch. It's a curveball. So,
You're
and I don't
funny.
know where it's gonna go. For all
So
of
the
Ruby's friends out there.
who may not understand. But so the final category, just to kind of wrap up our conversation, is we're going to talk about postpartum and some also reflections. So you had the blessing of, you had the first skin to skin with our son and stuff like that. And then but also some, I've heard some friends who feel this way, whereby they feel that the baby bonded quicker with the mom before they bond with the father and stuff, and they may think, oh, my baby doesn't like me. Why is it that when mom carries the baby is all good, and then when I carry, the baby gets anxious and is screaming even louder? So what encouragement would you give a dad who may be feeling that, like, my son hates me or my daughter hates me or something like that when I carry them, and in those early stages of infancy for the child?
Expect it and don't take it personally. Like I knew this. There's also a guy from church that I talked about this, and his wife, very specifically this, and how it was very difficult, because everything you're trying to do like isn't working, and then you hand baby over to mom, and he's like, that's all he needed. Um, that's the way God set this up.
Mm.
Like she's the one that carried him. Um, it's just going to be a natural thing. Like baby is going to connect with mom more than dad. And so just being like, okay, it does. Like I remember it specifically with me. I remember, and she used to correct me all the time. I'm like, man, I'm a crappy dad. I'm a failure of a dad. And she would say, no, you're not. Like she would
Mhm.
very strongly like, no, which she is correct. But those times do come because you want to help and you want that connection with your kid. But just know that it'll change.
Yeah.
Like it does. Thank God it wasn't that long of a period.
Mhm.
But just knowing like it's a baby, it's nothing personal. Like it's strictly like they're trying to survive, and mama is their support. Without mom, like what am I gonna do? So just know that that's gonna happen, and don't make it about you. Like it's biological. It's the need of the baby, and yeah, it'll change. It's not going to last forever.
Yeah. What, and also maybe just even adding on to that, what advice would you give a dad whose wife is reluctant about him taking care of the baby alone?
I'm thankful that I didn't have that. Um, I don't even really know what to say about that because that's a decision between wife and husband. I know how I would feel. I would be very offended unless there was something that I continually showed behavior that I was going to endanger my son. I would personally be very offended. That wouldn't be okay. And being the man of the house, like that would have been horrible. So I guess that's between you and your wife.
Right.
But I know that I would be not okay with that. And we would be having very, very difficult conversations because, yeah, I just don't know how I'd be able to do that. I don't think that would fly.
Yeah. So share a moment in your journey to fatherhood that you wish you could have done differently. Is there anything you can think of? I feel like you already kind of shared several things already. So if you
Yeah,
don't have anything,
just
we can
supporting
move on.
you, and yeah.
And I'm gonna go grab the baby because he's crying right now. But while I'm gone, looking back, describe a moment you wish you could go back to and give yourself grace. And I'll be right back.
Um, I guess all throughout the process, mainly, like there were times where I would be like, oh, I'm a failure because I'm trying something and the response I'm trying to get from my son isn't happening. Then I'm automatically taking on this, oh, well, I'm a failure. Well, I did something wrong. Um, honestly, just not thinking about myself so much, realizing that it's not about me. It's about, supporting my wife, supporting the baby, and like a lot of things are out of our control. And so, um, just having a better mindset about that, that like, no, he's not react. Hi, buddy. Hi, buddy. It's
What's
not
going
a,
on here?
it's not about me. It's about loving my son and yeah, taking myself out of the equation.
Yeah, it's good. And um, so when a baby is born, of course it's a blessing that a lot of people shower a lot of love to the moms and stuff like that. But how can someone bless dads as well? Like, what are maybe three things that you can be able to bless the dad with after the baby's born?
I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is, which thankfully we had people to do this, but like meal trains. Like, I didn't realize how much of a blessing those were, but having someone bring you meals over, bring you dinner over, so that's one less thing you have to take care of because you're not getting sleep. You're learning how to live now with a little human who is fully dependent on you. I guess another thing would be maybe like, and it's funny, I think about this, I say this, but it would have been hard for me to accept, like, hey man, let's go fishing, let's go camping, kind of get you out of that. That would have been really hard for me to do. Honestly, it wasn't ever like, yeah, it wasn't like, oh, I need to get away. I would have had a hard time doing that because I just wanted to be here, support her because of the major surgery, but also to help bear that load. Like, I'd never want to be a father, and I know I can fall into this. So I'm gonna stay on guard every day and pray, but I'm gonna be a hands-on father. I want to do that, and that starts off from day one. So maybe like, a blessing could be like, hey, yeah, let's go camping, let's go fishing, let's get away. I could see that being a blessing, and maybe that's me needing to relinquish control and everything. But I would have had a hard time accepting that. But definitely meals, because I love food. And it's a huge blessing when you have people in your life that want to bless you with a meal. So you can just focus on loving your wife and your kid.
Yeah. Your parents were definitely a huge blessing to us when it came to foods. And also so many friends of ours blessed us with foods as well. So we are very thankful for that. So, having a baby, they're cute and all, but they're also very expensive. What financial advice would you give to someone who is starting a family?
For some reason, I don't know if this is a thing in hospitals, but we had options. Like, it was crazy, right? A couple days out of the hospital, we're having to talk about paying the bills for that. But I just remember one of the things was, if you pay this within 3 days, it was like a 60% discount.
Yeah.
So we genuinely looked at each other and like, why not? Like, why not? So I guess if you have that, pay that up right up front, because 60%, that's a lot of money. For us, that's a lot of money at the time, and even now. And then, accept things. We've had a lot of people give us hand-me-down stuff that their kids had, things that are in really good shape, like they look brand new. Just be accepting of help, I guess.
No, that's really good.
We got a lot. Don't buy any toy. Like, honestly, there are things that we've had to buy, but like, I mean, our son, if you could see our living room right now, there's just so many toys, and he just like literally, he likes boxes and plastic more than anything. So don't go crazy on toys. Like, we have a few that are like really, really good for him. You like playing catch. Yeah, don't go crazy on toys. You're either going to get blessed with those things, or believe me, like, your kid doesn't care. He wants the things that he can't touch. Like, we have this thing like, what's the new toy of the day? It's just something random that he's never seen before. And he's going to play with that all day long.
Yeah. And we'll be content regardless. So yeah, that's very true. Those are really good, honey. So you've touched base on this a bit, but also just maybe, if anything else that you could add, how did you manage to balance the demands of work and family responsibilities, either maybe when I was pregnant or after having our son? Because it's a lot. You were able to get paternity leave for like a couple weeks, but then you went back to work and just sleepless nights and a lot.
I was thankful. I got 2 weeks off. I did go in, like, it was a week after, almost directly a week after we had Kobe. I preached. So I preached a sermon on my own, and it was about parenting, about family. So it was like very surreal for me. But I was blessed that I had 2 weeks that I could just stay home. I recognized that that's not the case for everyone. There's different rules, regulations within our country, within the world that are different. So I praised God for that. While it seemed like not a lot of time, like I'm thankful that I had it. I'm still adjusting to the balance. Um, One of the things that I try to practice is I work not too far away, so it's maybe like a minute, if that, ride home, turning off the radio and just praying for energy, for strength to come home and be present. She's with him all day by herself, so one of the ways that I can show love and support of her is like genuinely when I get home, it's my turn. And that's not always easy because I love my job and I don't see myself doing anything else, but it's pretty demanding. And there can be days where it's draining and exhausting. And I just feel like I just want to go home and sit on the couch and literally do nothing. But I want to be present. So I'm still balancing that off. I think it's getting better. I used to have days where I'd go in and I would just be worthless. Like I couldn't think, like my mind, it was just like mush. And those are getting better, but just like knowing that it's going to be a big change. One thing that's amazing now, though, to kind of hint back when I was saying like it changes that connection, like he always wants mom and not me, it changes. One of the amazing things about coming home now is like I open that door and he hears it and I walk in and he's got the biggest smile on his face and he just wants to play with dad.
Yeah, he starts clapping. He's like giggling. It's just like he knows who's gonna walk through that door every day.
And so when I say be patient at first, when he seems to not want you, they change. And that's one of the awesome things. I walk through that door, I get to see my beautiful wife, and I get to see my son's goofy, toothless smile looking at me when I wrestle, huh? And so, still balancing the work thing with being a dad, being a husband, but getting into rhythms.
Yeah, that's true. Any additional thoughts on how men can support their wives, like when it comes to postpartum and recovery? Maybe they had a C-section or maybe a vaginal birth, whatever it may be, but just like how can they help out? Anything additional?
If you have time, if you are able to take time off of work to be there with your wife, like I think that'd be a huge blessing. Also, like I said, whatever they need, do it. One thing that I try to do, I try to call her. I ask her in the afternoon and even double up. I call her when I'm leaving, getting in the car. Hey, what do you need? Do I need to bring home anything? Just being able to take things off her plate. Being willing to do things like dishes, laundry, cook. Because, her C-section, there was a lot of... I know. We'll go wrestle soon. There's a lot of recovery. And so just like anywhere that I could help out, anything that I could take off her plate, I tried to do. And I still try to do. I love him. We love him. But babies are they're energy drainers. So I can walk in the door and I could tell, okay, she's exhausted. What can I do to help her? What can I do to support her and be there for her and my son?
And I thank you as publicly, I guess like thank you. Is you do an amazing job in just supporting and like loving us and taking a lot off my plate and stuff. Because I know there are times you walk through that door, you're exhausted, but you're just like, okay, let me change, let me sanitize, and I'll come take baby off your hands. And that is such a blessing for me. And I'm so thankful. And those are moments where I'm like, God, I thank you for blessing me with a husband who's like, whom like, this is what I prayed for. This is what I highly desired, a husband who's hands-on with our child, a father, a hands-on father and stuff like that. So thank you, honey, for just being an amazing husband and father to our baby boy.
You're welcome. I love you.
I love you too. What I think maybe you kind of talked about this, like, maybe going fishing or something like that, but what is, how can other men support new or first time dads?
share things, talk with them, um, and yeah, just be open to sharing your experience, but don't be overbearing. The one thing I've noticed is like everyone's story and birth and pregnancy and everyone's different. But I guess I'm happy to share with anyone. Like, but I also don't want to be overbearing and like, this is how it is. So be prepared for blah, 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 blah. No, like, I'm there for you. Like, there's a few people I know that they've asked me. There's this other couple at church. They got married almost like 6 months after us and then had a kid 6 months after us. It's like crazy, this timeline. Cool. And so he's always telling me that he's looking at what we're doing for information and stuff like that. And I just let him know, hey man, like we're here for you. We love you. It was cool because like we got in turn to start like one thing that I always want to do. If there's someone that's just bringing home a kid or, you know, going through anything, the meal trains, bringing people meals. So we got to in turn do that. But yeah, just being not overbearing, not like he's not the only kid. We're not the only parents in this world. We don't know everything. Some of the most annoying things is when people come and talk to you and they're like the expert on everything regarding childbearing. And I'm like, I appreciate it, but please stop. So being willing to pass things along that work, but also like letting people figure it out on their own. If they don't ask, like, that's cool. Like, I don't need to share everything.
Yeah, that's really good. Is there any additional advice that you may have received on this journey that you definitely see to be true now? So something that really resonated with you? One piece of advice that you may have gotten regarding this journey to fatherhood?
The thing I can think of that I still try to remember every day is one of our pastors did premarital counseling, and it applies here. But he was just like, every morning when your feet hit the floor, you're getting out of bed, ask, what am I going to lay down for my wife today? Like, how am I going to serve her today? Be servant minded. You know, her needs before mine. She's going through far more than I am. How can I relieve the weight and not add extra weight to something that's already, yeah. Are you clapping?
Good answer, Daddy. Good answer. Good answer.
He's doing this like waving thing. I think he thinks he's a Jedi. Like, may the force be with you, Mama. Are you Baby Yoda?
That's awesome. That's really good. So, on a personal level, how did becoming a father impact your relationship with your dad?
This is one of the most beautiful things. First of all, my dad is a great grandpa. Like, he's an amazing grandpa.
He is.
He loves our son. Grandma is too.
Mm-hmm.
But specifically with grandpa, he loves our son. Ruby and I call him our Manny, because he's retired, and we're blessed that, like, if we need a break, both of them are very good at that.
Mm-hmm.
But me and my dad didn't always have the greatest relationship, mainly because of stupid decisions that I made, and just lifestyle choices that both of us made for many years. And so it's amazing seeing him so loving and hands-on with my son, and he's a great grandpa. Yes. And while having a kid and being married, me and my dad, before I met Ruby, when I moved back to my hometown, we had a really close bond. We'd go camping, fishing almost every week on the weekends. And of course, once I started dating Ruby and then getting married and now having a kid, that time has kind of gone out the window. But I take a lot of joy watching my dad with my son, because I don't know, we were at the movies or something, and he sent us a picture, and my dad loves playing the guitar, and he was sitting on our couch with the guitar with Kobe on his lap, and he just had the biggest smile and was trying to smack at the guitar, and I was like, that is precious.
It is. That's awesome. How has having your own child impacted how you view other people's parenting?
I've got a ton of grace.
Mm.
I think, no, I don't. I'll speak for me. Before I had a kid, it was really easy for me to say, why'd they do that? Oh, this, I would never do that, blah, blah, blah. I didn't know what the heck I was talking about. I was an idiot. Having my own son, having our own son, like I think both of us can agree on this, has given us a lot of grace. We don't know that family's story. We don't know what they went through. We don't know the specifics about that kid. Like, genuinely, it's helped me be a lot more gracious, because I used to be, if I'm being honest, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe, what are they doing? All these questions. But it's helped me realize, dang, man, this is really hard. And so we always thought, man, twins would be awesome. How cute. And then we had a kid and we're like, how do people do that? If you have twins, shout out to you. You're the real MVP. And if you have triplets, you're the real MVP. So
God bless you and good luck. That's awesome. Just a couple final questions. What advice would you give to a couple to just preserve the love and intimacy in their marriage after having a child?
Husbands, date your wife. There have been seasons. He's about to turn 10 months next month.
Yeah.
And be intentional about date night, because it is easy, and we've got caught up in it. Like, it'd be like a month go by and I'm like, honey, I'm sorry, we haven't gone on a date. It becomes very like easy to forget about it, to not make it a priority. But date night's amazing. It's crazy when we go, like, because within an hour we're like, we miss him, but it's not like we're going to go home, like, to enjoy one another's company, to have a conversation with her without this going on right now. Like, it's different. It almost feels weird because this is our new norm, but spending time together, making it a priority. Like, I try to shoot for date night once a week. It's gotten a lot harder to do that now that we have a kid, but try to stick to that. Yesterday we went out for a lunch date after the pediatrician appointment. But quality time. Don't get lost in your child. Like,
that's good.
Her and I are on the same, we're both Christians. We both believe the same thing. And it goes God first, then our marriage, then our kids. Not to put our kid above our marriage, because if we're not loving each other, if we're not serving each other, we're not being gracious to one another, we're not going to be that great of parents. So there's a reason why it flows down. We let the love that God has for us impact the love that we have for one another, and then the love that we have for our kid. So don't lose yourself in your kid. Husbands, date your wife.
Yeah, that's good. So just to wrap up, second to last question, what is the most difficult thing about being a dad, about being a father?
The most difficult thing?
He's like, yeah, Dad, what is it?
What is it? I don't know. The time. It's crazy going from a single man to a married man to now a man with a kid in such short a time. Like, there's this verse that talks about, in the Bible, that talks about being single is a blessing. Like, I always knew that verse, but now, like, you can look back and see, like, simply you have time to do things. You have, time to spend simply reading, that's in the context of, like, how you serve God and everything. But also, like, I gave up a lot of my personal time, which is, I would not go back and do anything different, because it's a blessing. But you lose some of that. Hey, yeah, Dad, do you want to go fishing this weekend? Or I want to play some Call of Duty or something like that. But it's hard to do that when gonna love your wife and love your baby. Those things are first.
So final question, what are the joys of being a father?
Everything. There are difficulties. Like, it sucks when she leaves and I'm by myself and I can't get him to calm down. It sucks at bedtime when He doesn't want to go to bed on our schedule, on our timing. But every difficult thing, the blessings are so much more. Getting to watch this little boy grow. Pray for him. I pray for him every night. I feed him, put him down in his crib, and every single night I pray for him, and I pray for his future, and I pray that he grows up to love Jesus. And just watching how much he has changed and grown. Yesterday we were at the pediatrician, and we went at a 6-month wellness checkup, and
9 months.
He couldn't sit. No, at our 6th month, he couldn't sit.
Oh,
He
yeah.
couldn't do anything. And then this last one was a 9-month checkup, and he's sitting there climbing on the toys and moving around and watching his personality come up. And it's changed me for the better. Having a kid helps you become a man, because you realize you are a selfish person, and giving up those things for the better of your family. But you're amazing, and I love you. And I love wrestling with him. It's just so much. Like the Bible says that kids are a blessing, and they truly are. And I don't take it for granted, because, again, we have a lot of people who have struggled to have kids, who have had miscarriages. So genuinely taking it one day at a time, counting him as one of our many blessings. And he just makes me laugh all the time because he's so goofy. Can I have that? Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, that's the end of my questions. Any additional things you'd like to share, honey, before we wrap up?
No, I would just, men, be men. Be men. Serve your wife, love your wife, support your wife. If you are a Christian, let it all flow from Jesus did not come to be served, but he served other people. Let that love that you know he has for you impact the way you love your wife, because sometimes doing the loving thing isn't always the roses and unicorns, but it's serving her in the daily, day-to-day tasks and things to do. So, guys, be men. Love your wives.
Thank you. Well, that's the end of our conversation. Thank you so much. I love you.
I love you too.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining me today on this live. I had so much fun. I learned a lot. And I'm married to you, but I learned so much. It's just really cool to hear a man's perspective on conception, pregnancy, postpartum, childbirth, and all these other things. So thank you so much. Make sure you like the video if you haven't done so. Subscribe to my channel. I share a lot helping women navigate through the complexities of growth and motherhood and relationships and things like that on the Ruby Room. And so make sure you join my channel. Oh, thanks for the nice promo, the Ruby Room. And subscribe to the channel whichever way you can, and like my videos and watch my many, many more videos. Thank you so much for all who tuned in. Thank you, Vijaya Vlogs. And also thank you, Mrs. Doris Amprachum. Appreciate you for tuning in. Thanks to everyone who joined. We love you guys so much, and we'll see you in the next video.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Say bye, Bubba's. Bye. And